Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of Melon Heavy Horror. I am your host with the Creepy Cans, Nikki, and this week I'm bringing you another one of my frightening favorites, From Beyond. From Beyond is a luscious Lovecraft story that's been a long time favorite of mine, along with The Reanimator. I've been a lifelong fan of Lovecraft's work. I've read just about everything that he wrote, and he did write a short story that shares the same name with this movie, From Beyond. Both of them, in my opinion, are genius. The short story is amazing, and the movie, as I'll discuss here, is really awesome as well. As a side note, my favorite Lovecraft story is actually the music of Eric Zahn. I think it's a must for any music fan, so if you're looking for a short story to read, you should definitely check that one out. While you're at it, go ahead and read the short story that inspired the movie we're going to review today, and you will not be disappointed.
Something's coming.
From Beyond, it was first released in 1986. And it is also based on the short story, same name, which was released in 1920 when it was first published. It was published and written during a time when spiritualism was very popular in America, and so the social relevance will definitely come into play here again throughout this review. Now, From Beyond was released in the year following Reanimator. Both films were directed by Stuart Gordon, and both films were acted by one of my favorite duos, Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs.
Was dead when I found it.
From Beyond stars Barbara Crampton as the girl wonder psychiatrist, Dr. Catherine McMichaels. We also have co-starring Jeffrey Combs as Crawford Tillinghast. Now, Tillinghast has been locked up in the insane asylum since he has been suspected of the murder of Dr. Edward Pretorius, who he was assisting in his creepy science lab.
Crawford, what did you see?
It ate him. Bit off his head. Bit off his head. Bit off his head.
So, Dr. McMichaels is joined by Bubba, played by Ken Foree, in an unorthodox attempt at helping Tillinghast to revisit the scene of this traumatic event in an attempt to help cure him of what they assume is a mental illness. Now, things do go horribly wrong when Tillinghast actually succeeds in restarting the resonator, and thereby exposing McMichaels, Bubba, and himself to the beyond.
What the hell is that?
Each time they power up the resonator, they are exposed to an increasingly horrifying Dr. Pretorius, as well as wrought with the side effects of an enlarged pineal gland. So Pretorius and the Beyond begin to take over the house, and this really leaves our trio fighting for their lives. In the midst of all of this turmoil, there are some seriously spicy scenes with some sexual tension between just about every character in the movie. Seriously, even the amorphous blobs get in on some of the action. So this movie is really dripping in sex, and I'm really sad to say that there is no porn parody of From Beyond. Wish there was one, but there isn't. Believe me, I checked.
You're asking for it.
The film centers around the idea that the pineal gland holds the secrets to unlocking additional senses beyond your normal 5. I'm going to poorly explain now what the pineal gland actually does, but in general terms, it helps to regulate your melatonin, which plays into your sleep cycles. So for centuries, it was actually believed that the pineal gland was much more than that. Descartes actually said that the pineal gland is the principal seat of the soul in the body. In the 19th century, Madame Blavatsky would continue the idea of the pineal gland being more than just a physical part of the body, and she was actually the first one to make the association between the pineal gland and what you might call the third eye. This all sounds pretty trippy if you ask me.
Pretorius believed the pineal was a dormant sensory organ.
So it's highly likely that Lovecraft was influenced by the contemporary belief in spiritualism at the time, and thus the short story and eventually our film, From Beyond, were born. Let's talk melon heavy moments. Overall, in this movie, we get 4 melons, even if 2 of them are on video.
This guy was into some weird shit.
Several times throughout the movie, we do get glimpses of the sex tape between Dr. Pretorius, who's played by Ted Sorrell, and some BDSM with his unnamed partner, who I looked into is played by a woman named Regina Blees. Now, I could not find any other credits for her, no matter how hard I looked, so my assumption is that she is a local from the area. The movie was shot outside of Rome, Italy, and so I'm thinking it was likely she was brought in for this, and maybe the only thing she ever did. So, actually, if you have more information on that, please feel free to let me know. In the movie, we are also blessed by Crampton's melons, but unfortunately, they're paired with Pretorius's oozing orifices. She's also accosted by tentacles a few times in this movie, so while we do get to see her tits, they are not always happy.
What are you gonna do to me?
I'm going to kiss you.
Dr. McMichaels truly undergoes a tantalizing sexual transformation throughout the movie, and this is due to the influence of the resonator and her enlarging pineal gland. They do a really superb job of stressing this transformation throughout the movie with the changing of her outfits. So let's take a look.
This is Dr. Catherine McMichaels. Hello.
At the beginning of the movie, Dr. McMichaels is presented as the beautiful but clinical psychiatrist who is known for her genius throughout the medical world, and also probably known for her shoulder pads. Very 80s. Her innocence is further shown by the nightgown that she wears in her little late night trip up to the attic. You really get the impression with the nightgown that she's wearing that she truly has no idea what she's in for. Once she's been corrupted by her fully enlarged pineal gland,
that's what she said. Ha!
She then stumbles upon the ultimate, fully stacked dominatrix wardrobe. All of it also happens to suspiciously fit her like a glove. Now, in this scene, our hero is really reborn into her bad girl persona. And I think collectively you can hear all of the horror fans watching the movie say, "Yes, mistress."
I did.
This role, in my opinion, is a huge win for any heroine in a horror movie. It's also one of the reasons why I really love Barbara Crampton so much. I think for the time it was rare to have a female hero who handled her role with such fierce sexual energy and really managed to own every single scene.
Hi, you must be Dr. McMichaels.
No, I'm Dr. McMichaels.
From beginning to end, From Beyond really delivers on the heavy-hitting moments. There are even a few scenes that will leave you feeling like you need a shower to get all the slime off.
Turn it off.
No. I have to see more. Feel more.
Now that sounds like me and my Hitachi. Another thing that this movie is full of is the phallic imagery, some more subtle and some very overt. We learn that the beyond, and as a result your enlarged pineal gland, really seems to stimulate them sexually. Now, personally, I wish we had gotten to see Bubba's sexual transformation a little bit more.
Well, how about the hard-on I got? Is there a statistical correlation for that, too?
One of my favorite moments in this movie is when Tillinghast's pineal gland emerges from his forehead like some sort of Lovecraftian red rocket, and McMichaels proceeds to literally bite it off. In one scene, Tillinghast exposes Pretorius as impotent, stating that since he couldn't give pleasure, he in turn inflicted pain. It seriously sounds like this whole movie could have been solved with one prescription for Viagra. Sadly, though, it wasn't available on the market until 1998, so unfortunately for Pretorius, he had to turn to the pineal gland. Another really big point in this movie is all of the slime that covers everything. The slime that they used was created using methyl cellulose. This is a compound that at one point in the time this movie was made was also added to McDonald's milkshakes to give them the creamy consistency that McDonald's wanted while not having to put actual ingredients in their food. Now, those of you with kids who are obsessed with making slime may also recognize methyl cellulose, as it goes into a lot of those weird slime recipes. In an interview, Crampton fills us in that the set was seriously cold. And so between takes, they would run heaters, but there was actually no heating in the studio that they were using. So imagine being covered in slime and having to act with all of the passion that you want to bring with the role, and it's freezing cold. It was reportedly very unseasonably cold for Italy at the time. And so, I just imagine acting covered in that cold slime and freezing your butt off between takes. It really just sounds like a gross, cold experience, which now that I think about it, that sounds what I imagine Hollywood is like. So, now Crampton did say, even despite all of these issues and all of these things that happened, this was one of her favorite movies that she's ever shot. And she's also made the comment regarding her and Jeffrey Combs that they feel like a brother and sister on set. So I think it makes sense why it was one of her favorite movies to shoot, even despite the cold sliminess of the studio. After the success of Reanimator, they had a huge budget increase for creating From Beyond. You can really tell this in the way that they stepped up the game with all of the practical effects and also the addition of special effects. So one of my other favorite things about this movie is the lighting. I really feel like the lighting is just fantastic. It really gives an otherworldly, sort of ethereal feel to the whole movie, particularly the scenes in the beyond. So, particularly one of my favorite scenes is Tillinghast's rebirth, where Combs emerges from the gelatinous heap of flesh and goo. While it has some really amazing effects, one of the scenes that really hit me hard was Bubba's death. Now, he's an upstanding gentleman throughout most of the movie and is really just a pure good character. His death scene, however, is particularly gnarly, and the effects they used were really amazing but very sad. So he died a hero, that's for sure. Hello, and thanks for staying with me so far. Don't worry, I won't try any of my psychiatry tricks on you. This week, I'm bringing you a more respectable cosplay, the pre-pineal transformation Dr. McMichaels. I don't quite have the right hair to exactly recreate her look, but I did the best I could with what I've got.
Thank you.
So, there are a few things in the movie that don't quite flow as smoothly as one might hope. So, for example, in the very beginning of the movie, the windows are blown out in Pretorius' lab in the fight between Pretorius and Tillinghast, and when our trio arrives later, you see that the windows in the lab are intact, and not only are they intact, but it also looks like they're dirty or they're grainy and old, so it certainly couldn't be argued that a caretaker had, for example, replaced those windows because they looked very old. So that was one of the things that I noticed about this movie. So another I don't know if it's an inconsistency in the movie, but something that definitely, stood out to me a little bit was in the end, McMichaels hauls out this really professional looking explosive to plant on the resonator. And I really just feel like they don't explain how she has this sophisticated bomb. I mean, I'm pretty sure that she didn't minor in bomb making when she went for her psychiatry degree. Maybe I'm wrong. However, it's kind of an interesting point that Crampton actually brings up in several interviews that I've seen with her as well. She discusses how she had actually questioned, well, wait a minute, where does she get this bomb from? We need to explain this. People are going to question it. And she was pretty much told that nobody will notice. But of course, a lot of us, we want to know where the bomb came from. Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of Melon Heavy Horror. As always, I'm your host with the Creepy Cans, Nikki, and each week I will be bringing a new review of a movie or music or toys, you name it. So please be sure to like and subscribe. And in addition, you can always haunt me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, as well as Instagram. And I would love to hear from you. I hope you'll join me again next week.